This show is brought to you in part by viewers like you who joined a Patreon or become YouTube members. Thank you. And if you could, hit the like button and subscribe if you want more Browns-focused content. Hey, what's up, and welcome to Hot Takes, the show where I take your hot takes and then answer them in video format. We're going to start off the first hot take with a hot take from Tracy, a regular on this segment. Tracy says this: drafting at 6, the Browns should have a shot at Francis or Spencer Fano if that's the route Andrew Berry wants to go early in the draft. Otherwise, it's possible that Caleb Lomu or Caden Proctor at 24. I do believe Berry can address O-line pretty quickly in the first round. I think you can address it in the first round. Being at the Senior Bowl and being at East-West, I think there are guys that you can get in day 2 as well to fill your holes on offensive line, especially in the interior. I think there's been a lot of guys I'm like, hey, I think that guy can play guard. I think he will be good at guard. And I think that fits. So I don't think there's I don't know if you have to be in a huge rush to fill the offensive line in one fall swoop. I think you can take your time with it. That being said, I wouldn't be upset if they went double offensive line in the first round. But yeah, I think there are options there at all line in the interior, especially. And I think there are also options for them at wide receiver, in this draft, and tight end especially. I think the Browns are going to get their tight end too from the draft this year, and I think that makes a lot of sense because there's going to be a lot of really, really good options available. It's a really deep tight end class. I would say this class is probably the deepest at tight end from my, glances at it. But thank you for the comment. The next hot take comes from Jared, and Jared says this: please pick this or highlight this hot take this week. I did a Browns point breakdown, and I thought 279 points seemed high. Must be talking about what the defense is giving up. I came up with special teams accounting for 47 points this season, and the offense at 100 points. The criteria I used to compare was if a interception or fumble led to a scoring drive less than 40 yards, it would be considered offense. I think I did something similar to this before too, in 2023. Anything over is on the defense, but the whole reason I bring this up is that historically bad 2010 Chargers special teams season only accounted for 32 points and was regarded as one of the worst in history. Special teams criteria also included the few 60-yard returns that led to 30 yards or less scoring yard returns against defense. So you're saying basically the special teams was responsible for giving up 47 points this year. And the Chargers, who get clowned on for having the worst special teams of all time in 2010, only gave up 32. It speaks to why nobody's upset that Bubba Ventrone got fired, right? I think that's good analysis there. I like the process that you use there. I think that's a good way to kind of chart these things. I remember doing the same thing for the Browns in 2023 when everybody was bitching about the road defense. But I was like, it's not really a defense on the road. It's that the offense is turning the ball over more on the road and putting the defense in more adverse situations, which caused the home versus away split to become a thing, but it wasn't really that if you dig deeper. I think that you're onto something there. The special teams and offense combining for 147 of the Browns points. It's over half of those points is crazy. And it goes to show you, if the Browns defense had a good offense to go with it, all this shit we complain about with the Browns defense, they get beat on end arounds and all this stuff, we wouldn't complain about it because it wouldn't be a big deal. The reason this stuff is a big deal is because the offense is terrible. But I think the Browns defense can be just as good, if not better, than the Houston Texans. They just got sometimes competent quarterback play, which we cannot manage to get, unfortunately. But thank you for that hot take. That was a good one. That was a really good one. All right, we're going to continue with the hot takes, but first I got to thank my sponsor, Sleeper. Hey, have you heard of the Sleeper app? It is a place where you can go to play fantasy football. It's also a place you can go to do picks. You can put your knowledge on the line, make some picks, and see who knows ball the most, and maybe even, be rewarded for your knowledge. Go on the Sleeper app. Make sure you sign up using the promo code Worst Take, and you'll get 100% match on up to $100 when you use the promo code Worst Take. Make sure you check out the Sleeper app. All right, the next one comes from Josh. Josh says this: at this point, I'm on the tank train. If we had stellar coaching options, I may think differently, but I don't. We still make an effort to plug holes, but rather than reconstructing deals and pushing cap into the future, we let them hit this year, go into the year with minimal cap instead of the traditional $30 million that Barry likes to carry. Once we hit 0-6, trade. Well, are we sure we're going to hit 0-6 with this roster? Like, if we plug the holes, are we going to hit 0-6? I don't think we will. Once we hit 0-6, trade Miles to the highest bidder and Denzel Ward. Hope to land a quarterback in 2020. Not to say it's a guarantee, but we're ignoring the inevitable. Here's the thing, though, man. You can do all of that and not land a quarterback. And I'm not trading Miles unless I know I'm getting a quarterback, which means I'm not trading him in the middle of the season. I'll do that in the offseason if it's part of a package to get the pick I need to get a quarterback. But I'm not going to do what the Jets did. The Jets did all that shit, presumably for a lot of people that they thought to get a quarterback. And they have the number 2 pick and no quarterback. I'm not trading Miles unless I know I'm getting a quarterback. Not because I hope to get a quarterback, but because I know I'm getting a quarterback. That is the only way you can trade Miles. So that's my thing with it, right? Like, why in the world would you trade your best player for a scratch-off ticket to maybe get a quarterback? Like, I get the ideal is that you want the Browns to have the best chance possible to get a quarterback, but I don't even think that gives you the best chance possible doing it in the middle of the season. Myles Garrett's trade value is going to be pretty good at the end of the year. It's going to be pretty good during the year. It's going to be the same. It's already maxed out. You can't get enough back from Myles. So I would wait to the end of the year, see if anybody wants to deal. But I'm not about to trade Myles if I can't guarantee I'm getting a quarterback. That would be a disaster. That would be a disgusting mess. And that would be something that we would ridicule Andrew Berry for in the moment. And then when he gets fired because of it, people will put it on a list and call it a name, and it'd be another fucking Cleveland thing. It sounds good before you do it, but then you think about doing it, and it's just a bad idea. That's kind of my whole thing with tanking. Tanking sounds good hypothetically, but living through it and living through the consequences of tanking and realizing that it's not going to track cleanly like it would on an Excel spreadsheet, it kind of ruins the idea. And again, tanking's never been successful. Like, the Browns tanked, they didn't get the right quarterback. So I don't think that's the way to go. They got to find a way. And I also think too, I don't think their roster's compatible with tanking. Like, the Browns just aren't a bad enough team to tank. If they were a bad enough team to tank, we would not be having this conversation. We'd be preparing to draft Fernando Mendoza number 1 overall. But that's not where we are. And the reason that's not where we are is because the roster, even with horrific quarterback play, which you think they're going to improve, even with a horrific offense, which you think they're going to improve, right, with Todd Monken and then focusing on the resources on the offense, even with all of that, even if you get a little bit of a regression from the defense, you're going to be in a situation where you're probably too good to tank. So it just can't be an option. It's just not an option. Got to figure out something else. Because if you can't, you will just kind of throw shit at the wall. It's not going to work. You know what I mean? But appreciate the question. Not the question, but the comment. Next one comes from John, who says this: the Browns are asking the new head coach to take the worst offense in the league the last 2 seasons and turn it around. It's a tall order, a young, inexperienced coach. I can't say I'm thrilled right now, but I can see the logic in hiring a more proven offensive coach like Monken. I think that's why I just wasn't that mad when they hired Monken. It wasn't what I expected, but I wasn't that mad because when you look at Monken's track record, it's like, nah, it makes sense, like, for the job. Is it a guarantee that Monken's going to be successful? Obviously not. But especially if they force him to keep Jim Schwartz in some kind of weird co-coaching deal, like that's going to be a disaster. That's not going to work. But if you're just looking at what Todd Monken has done throughout his career, he's been successful at all the things that he needs to be successful at. Like if he were 40 years old and this job were available, we'd be thrilled. We'd be as thrilled as we'd be to hire fucking Clint Kubiak, right? Like, if he would have taken this job, right? I think that's the thing. Is like if we're looking at the resume is impressive, and it does bode well to kind of address the Browns' issues. And I think that's, if the Browns had hired somebody where I don't think there's an explanation for how they can fix the offense, then I would have been pissed. But there's an explanation with Todd Monken that, it's credible. It's not like the most convincing explanation in the world, but it's certainly not ridiculous. Steven Undisclosed says nothing will get better before Jimmy Haslam is gone. I want to kind of address this sentiment of like people basically saying to themselves, oh man, it's not going to get better until Jimmy sells the team. And I only say this because I've watched this team in my lifetime have 3 different owners. And I need people to understand, even if Jimmy goes away, you're still going to have to overcome ownership. Like, we were bitching and moaning about Al Lerner, and then Al Lerner passed away, gave it to Randy Lerner. Randy Lerner wasn't very involved. He was very passive with his ownership in the Cleveland Browns. And then people were saying it starts at the top and it's not going to change with Randy Lerner. Somebody else has to buy the team. And then Jimmy Haslam buys the team, and we're doing the same exact thing. At some point, we have to realize there is no magical, mythical owner or billionaire that's going to buy the Cleveland Browns and know what the fuck they're doing. All these owners, all 32 of them, are grossly unqualified to run a football team. And that's why all 32 owners are obstacles that all 32 franchises need to clear. And I don't think there's much of a difference between the owners, if I'm being real with you. You hear more from some owners than you hear from others, but all of these owners are clueless. It's just a fact. They're all clueless. You don't get $6 billion from knowing ball. That's not how you attain the money that you need to, buy the Cleveland Browns. You get $6 million because you were $6 billion because you were born with $2 billion, and you were fortunate enough to put $1 billion in Apple stocks, and then it just accumulated over time. Or maybe you founded ExxonMobil, or your family founded ExxonMobil, and there was a war and you get a bunch of money from that. That's how you get $6 billion. None of that has to do with football. So every single person who owns a football team at this point, outside of like maybe some of the few original owners, have no background in football. And of most of the people in the league who own the team, they come from a football family, these are like second, third generation people who don't know what the fuck they're doing. Right? Like the Mara family. People used to, my whole childhood, people used to be, oh, the Maras are such a good ownership. They're so great. And then like the third generation fell son takes over the family, the organization. And then they're a dumpster fire, just like everything else. Look at the Pagulas in Buffalo. Look at Spanos in Los Angeles. This idea that there's some kind of magical, mythical billionaire that could buy your team and run it competently, we got to let go of this. At some point, we just got to accept that you're going to have to overcome ownership to win football games in the NFL. And that is not a requirement that's unique to the Cleveland Browns. That is a requirement that is every single team. The Steelers have to overcome ownership. The Ravens have to overcome ownership. The Bengals most certainly have to overcome ownership. It's different struggles. You can pick your different struggles, right? The Ravens are a bit too streamlined and a bit too risk-averse with their ownership. The Pittsburgh Steelers are cheap. The Bengals are omega cheap. You can pick your struggles. right? Jimmy Haslam might meddle too much. You can pick your struggles, but there's going to be a struggle there. You're going to have to worry about ownership. The only owner in the NFL who has any credibility in football is Jerry Jones. And look how y'all talk about Jerry Jones' football decisions. Like, that's the one dude who has $1 billion, who owns a football team and actually has a background in football. And nobody thinks he's good at it. There's no mythical billionaire that's going to buy this team and run it how you want it run. They're all going to be incompetent. You just have to find a way to remove them from football ops over time. And usually you find a way to do that by having a floor on a team. And that includes hitting on a quarterback. That includes having long-term success. And the more success you have, the less ownership feels the need to be involved, right? If you can have a floor on how many games you lose, then ownership's not involved. This is why I say a franchise quarterback is so important. It's not just important for what it gives you on the field, which is a floor. You get a franchise quarterback, you're only going to lose so many games if that guy's healthy. But also a franchise quarterback is so important because that floor keeps ownership the fuck out of football operations. Look at the Saints, right? The Saints aren't a well-run organization, but when they had Drew Brees and Sean Payton, they appeared to be a well-run organization. You know why? It's because they had enough there to have a floor, and football ops was safe from ownership involvement. We got to stop acting like we're the only team with bad ownership. Everybody's dealing with it. So you're never going to overcome anything if you're just waiting for Robin Hood to buy a fucking team and then own you to safety. That's just not going to happen. Every team's dealing with this. Every team has shitty owners. Every team has to deal with it. It's not just the Browns. It's not just Cleveland. It's everywhere. Every team deals with it. You got to get over the hump of your ownership. That's just a hurdle you're expected to clear, and every team does. The Texans have been to back-to-back divisional championship games, and they have a terrible owner. Like, how much changed for the Clippers when they sold the team from the racist dude and gave it to Steve Ballmer, right? Like, as much change, or are they still the Clippers? If you think that somebody's just going to magically buy this team and fix it, you're deluding yourself. You're going to have to overcome Jimmy Haslam to be great. That is just the requirement. The same way it's a requirement for the Steelers, the same way it's a requirement for the Bengals, the same way it's a requirement for the Ravens. And guess what? All those teams have found ways to win despite having bad owners. Art Modell's one of the worst owners of all time. They won a Super Bowl with him there. You have to overcome it. There's no escaping from it. Because if Jimmy sells this team, you're just going to sell it to somebody who has less experience and who has more reason to believe that they should be involved in football ops. You can't run from it. You just got to deal with it and find a way to overcome it. That's my whole mentality with it. That's why I get so annoyed when people has like blame it all on ownership. It's like, yeah, you can blame it on ownership, but guess what, dog? You got to find a way to get over it. Like, you got to find a way to overcome it. You know what I mean? Just because it's true that ownership is going to fuck some shit up for your football team doesn't mean that some other owner going to come in and save you. You got to save yourself. And that's my advice to football teams. Stop trying to act like the owner is going to change because he sells the team. It's going to be the same shit, different face, different name you have to learn, but it's going to be the same shit. It's the same shit, all 32 teams. And look, as these teams get more expensive, as the NFL becomes more successful, it's going to become even more the case because the pool of people who can own the teams becomes even smaller. You know, that's just the reality of the situation. Nobody's going to come by, swing by, no ball, and own the team. That's just not happening. The people who know ball, they don't make $8 billion. Okay? That's not what you don't make that much money by knowing ball. I wish, but you don't. Let's get to the last one. Curtis Maximus. Okay. Plenty of Raven fans were not happy with Minter. Plenty of Steeler fans were not happy with McCarthy. Plenty of Browns fans not happy with Monken. It's clear that the initial reaction of any fan base is to be negative. The only guy that gets hired and everybody had their favorites as a Ravens fan, I think Monken is a good hire for y'all. Likable guy, good play caller, no BS, straightforward. Here's the thing about head coaching searches, and I tried to warn people about this well before Kevin even got fired. You gotta not fall into the game of falling in with a name or falling in love with a name, right? That's the danger. You start to do some research and then you find a guy who has some press conference clips that you like, and then you say to yourself, this is gonna be the guy. And you fall in love with somebody who is virtually a stranger to you. You don't know much about him. I made the joke on Twitter, like half the people who are crashing out about Nathan Shieldhouse not getting the job didn't know how to pronounce Nathan Shieldhouse 1 or 2 weeks ago, right? Like that's just how things can go with these searches. Look at the traits, look at what you want them to address, and then ask yourself, does their resume demonstrate they can address that? But don't fall in love with the name, because all that's going to happen is they're going to hire somebody who's not the name you fell in love with, and then you're going to crash out over somebody that you just looked up their Wikipedia to learn about them a week or two ago. You know what I mean? And that's when this starts to get ridiculous. But want to thank everybody for checking the video out. Make sure y'all hit that like button. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.